Here comes a moment when you realize that chasing someone's attention is costing you your peace. You don't need to compete, beg, or prove that you're worthy of being chosen. When you know your value, you move differently, and the right person feels that difference. This is how you become unforgettable without ever chasing him. The first thing you have to understand is that chasing someone's attention does not create genuine connection. It creates a cycle where your mood begins to depend on whether he calls, texts, responds, notices you, or gives you the reassurance you are waiting for. And the moment your emotional stability becomes dependent on another person's behavior, you have handed them a power they were never supposed to have. You start checking your phone constantly. You analyze every message. You wonder why he took 3 hours to respond. You question whether you said something wrong. You begin changing yourself because you think maybe a different version of you will finally make him choose you. But love should never require you to abandon yourself just to keep someone interested. Protecting your value means understanding that your worth does not increase when someone chooses you, and it does not decrease when someone walks away. You were valuable before his attention arrived. You remain valuable whether he recognizes it or not. That mindset changes everything because now you are no longer approaching relationships from desperation. You are approaching them from self-respect. You are not asking, how can I make him want me? You are asking, does the way he treats me deserve access to me? That is a completely different question. When you stop chasing attention, you stop trying to manufacture interest. You stop sending messages just because you are afraid he might forget you. You stop creating unnecessary conversation to keep yourself present in his mind. You stop performing a version of yourself that you believe will make him stay. Instead, you allow his actions to reveal his intentions. If he wants to know you, let him make an effort to know you. If he wants to spend time with you, let him create time. If he values your presence, let that value show through consistency rather than forcing yourself into his schedule. This does not mean becoming cold, distant, or manipulative. It does not mean pretending you do not care. It means caring without losing yourself. There is a difference between expressing genuine interest and desperately pursuing validation. You can communicate, you can be affectionate, you can show appreciation, you can make your intentions clear. But you do not have to keep proving your worth to someone who is already capable of seeing it. The woman who protects her value understands that attention is not the same as commitment. A man can text you every day and still have no intention of building something meaningful. He can compliment you, flirt with you, and make you feel desired while remaining completely inconsistent. That is why you cannot measure your importance by how much attention someone gives you. Measure it by the quality of their actions, the consistency of their behavior, and the respect they bring into your life. And when you stop chasing, something powerful happens inside you. You become less reactive. You stop feeling like you have to compete with every other woman. You stop obsessing over who else might be getting his attention. You realize that you are not in a competition for someone's affection. If he genuinely wants to build something with you, he will participate in building it. If he does not, no amount of chasing will create the kind of commitment you actually deserve. Your goal is not to force someone to choose you. Your goal is to become so grounded in your own standards that you no longer accept being treated like an option when you want something real. And that means knowing when to step back, when to stop overgiving, when to let silence reveal the truth, and when to walk away from anything that repeatedly asks you to prove that you are worthy of staying. Your life should never become smaller because you are interested in someone. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is slowly turning another person into the center of their world. Suddenly, your plans depend on his availability. Your mood depends on his attention. Your confidence depends on whether he seems interested. You stop doing the things that once made you feel alive because you are waiting for his message, his call, his invitation, or his approval. And without realizing it, you begin building your entire emotional world around someone who has not even proven that he deserves that position. Build a life that does not revolve around his choices. Keep your goals. Keep your friendships. Keep your routines. Keep the passions that existed before he entered your life. Continue becoming stronger, smarter, healthier, more confident, and more fulfilled because your life has meaning beyond whether one particular man chooses you. When you have your own direction, you are no longer sitting around waiting for someone else to decide what happens next. There is something deeply attractive about a woman who has somewhere to go, something to accomplish, and something she genuinely cares about. Not because she is trying to make a man jealous, but because she has developed an identity that does not disappear when romance enters the picture. She does not cancel everything because he suddenly becomes available. She does not abandon her priorities because he wants attention. She can enjoy his presence without making his presence her entire existence. That distinction matters. You can love someone and still have your own life. You can care about someone and still protect your time. You can be excited to see him and still honor commitments you made to yourself. You can want a relationship and still refuse to make the relationship your only source of happiness. That is emotional independence, and it changes the energy you bring into every interaction. When your life is full, you stop approaching relationships from scarcity. You are not thinking, if he leaves, what will I have? You know exactly what you have. You have your ambitions, you have your friendships, you have your standards, you have your creativity, you have your personal growth. You have your future. You have a life that continues moving forward whether someone joins you or not. And that is important because the healthiest relationships are not built between two people desperately trying to complete each other. They are built between two people who already have identities, values, responsibilities, and dreams, and who choose to share their lives rather than surrender their lives. Do not abandon your routine just because you met someone interesting. If you were going to the gym, keep going. If you were building a career, keep building. If you were spending time with your family, keep showing up. If you had hobbies that made you happy, keep pursuing them. If you had goals that mattered before he appeared, those goals still matter now. You do not need to make yourself constantly available to prove that you care. Availability without boundaries can quickly become overinvestment. When someone knows you will always drop everything whenever they appear, they may never understand the value of your time. Your time should have structure because your life has structure. This is not about playing hard to get. It is about refusing to become easy to lose. Let him see that you have a world of your own. Let him understand that being with you means becoming part of a meaningful life, not becoming the owner of it. You are not waiting for him to give your life direction. You are already moving, already growing, already becoming, and if he wants to walk beside you, he has to bring his own purpose, consistency, and intention to the journey rather than expecting you to stop moving just because he has not decided where he wants to go. Confidence is not about walking into a room and convincing everyone that you are valuable. Real confidence is much quieter. It is the ability to know who you are without needing constant confirmation from someone else. When you stop depending on his attention to feel beautiful, worthy, interesting, or important, something changes in the way you carry yourself. You become less anxious about whether he notices you because you have already learned to notice yourself. Many people confuse confidence with appearance, attitude, or performance. They think confidence means being difficult, acting uninterested, or pretending not to care. But real confidence does not require an act. It comes from internal security. You do not need to manipulate his emotions, make him jealous, or disappear just to see whether he will chase you. You simply stop measuring your worth by his reactions. If he responds quickly, you feel good. If he responds slowly, you feel rejected. If he compliments you, you feel beautiful. If he becomes distant, you suddenly question yourself. That is not emotional freedom. That is allowing another person to control your self-image without even realizing it. You have to break that pattern. Your value cannot rise and fall according to someone's attention. You are still worthy when he is interested. You are still worthy when he is uncertain. You are still worthy when he chooses you. And you are still worthy when he does not. His decision can tell you whether you are compatible, but it cannot determine your worth as a person. That mindset allows you to enter relationships differently. Instead of asking, what can I do to make him stay? You begin asking, is this relationship aligned with the woman I am becoming? Instead of obsessing over whether he likes you, you become curious about whether you genuinely like the way he behaves. Instead of wondering how to compete with other women, you realize there is nothing to compete for when you know what you bring. You stop performing. You stop pretending to have interests you do not have. You stop agreeing with everything because you are afraid disagreement will push him away. You stop changing your personality to become whatever you think he wants. You become honest about your values, your boundaries, your expectations, and your personality. And the right person does not need a manufactured version of you to become interested. Confidence also means being comfortable with silence. You do not need to fill every quiet moment with a message. You do not need to ask repeatedly where the relationship is going because you are terrified of uncertainty. You can observe. You can listen. You can allow someone's behavior to give you information. If he is inconsistent, you notice it. If he is respectful, you notice it. If he makes effort, you appreciate it. If he repeatedly disappoints you, you do not explain away the pattern simply because you want him to choose you. That is what confidence looks like in real life. It is not loud. It is not aggressive. It does not announce itself. It is the calm understanding that you do not have to convince someone to recognize what you already know about yourself. And when you carry yourself with that kind of confidence, your energy changes. You communicate differently. You set boundaries without apologizing for having them. You receive affection without becoming dependent on it. You enjoy attention without becoming addicted to it. You can appreciate his interest without needing it to validate your identity. The goal is not to become so confident that you never need anyone. The goal is to become confident enough that you never abandon yourself just because you want someone. Because when you know your worth, you stop begging for a position in someone's life. You stop trying to outperform every other option. You stop treating romantic attention like a prize you have to earn. You understand that you are not auditioning for the role of someone's partner. You are deciding whether the person standing in front of you is capable of meeting you with the same honesty, effort, respect, and emotional maturity you are willing to bring. Real attraction does not come from pretending to be someone you are not. It does not come from playing endless games, creating jealousy, disappearing on purpose, or trying to keep a man constantly uncertain about where he stands. Those tactics might create temporary curiosity, but curiosity is not the same as genuine emotional connection. If you want someone to become deeply attracted to you, let him experience the real person behind the appearance, the confidence, the conversation, and the image you are presenting. Authenticity creates a different kind of attraction because it gives another person something real to connect with. When you are authentic, you are not constantly calculating your next move. You are not wondering whether a certain message will make him chase you more. You are not changing your personality based on what you think he wants. You are comfortable expressing your opinions, your humor, your interests, and your boundaries without turning every interaction into a performance. That does not mean revealing everything immediately. Authenticity does not mean oversharing every emotion or giving someone complete access to your private world before they have earned your trust. It simply means that the person you present is genuinely you. Your words match your actions. Your standards remain consistent. You do not pretend to be comfortable with something that actually hurts you just because you fear losing him. There is power in being honest about what you want. If you want commitment, you do not have to pretend that casual attention is enough. If you value communication, you do not have to act like disappearing for days does not bother you. If you need respect, you do not have to tolerate disrespect just to keep someone interested. You can communicate your expectations calmly and then watch what he does with that information. That is where emotional attraction becomes meaningful. People remember how they feel around someone who makes them feel accepted without making them feel controlled. When you listen without constantly judging, when you communicate without attacking, and when you allow conversations to go deeper than surface level flirting, you create an environment where genuine connection can grow. You are not trying to impress him every second. You are creating space for both people to discover whether there is something real between them. Do not underestimate the power of emotional presence. Put the phone down sometimes and actually listen. Ask questions because you are genuinely curious, not because you are collecting information to use later. Remember the small details he shares. Notice what matters to him, but make sure the connection moves in both directions. You should not become his emotional support system while he remains emotionally unavailable to you. Authenticity also means letting yourself be seen as imperfect. You do not have to appear flawless. You can have insecurities. You can have difficult days. You can admit when you are wrong. You can laugh at yourself. You can say, I don't know. You can disagree without turning the disagreement into a battle. You can express vulnerability while still maintaining boundaries. That combination is powerful because vulnerability without boundaries can become emotional overexposure, while boundaries without vulnerability can become emotional distance. You want balance. You want to be open enough to connect and grounded enough to protect yourself. and never confuse authenticity with giving someone everything they ask for. Being genuine does not mean becoming endlessly available. Being kind does not mean accepting poor treatment. Being emotionally open does not mean ignoring red flags. You can have a soft heart and strong standards at the same time. The most important thing is to stop trying to become the woman you think he will choose and start becoming the woman you genuinely respect. When you are comfortable with yourself, your interactions become more natural. You do not need to manufacture mystery because your life already has depth. You do not need to create jealousy because you are not desperate for competition. You do not need to constantly prove your desirability because you are no longer seeking permission to believe in your own value. Let attraction grow from truth rather than manipulation. Let him discover your personality instead of a carefully designed character. Let him see your warmth, your intelligence, your ambition, your humor, your standards, and your imperfections. And most importantly, let him make his choice based on who you actually are, because being chosen for a version of yourself that you cannot maintain is not winning someone. It is creating a relationship that eventually requires you to disappear inside it. If you want someone to value your presence, you have to first understand the value of your time, energy, and attention. Your standards are not a strategy for making someone chase you. They are a reflection of what you are willing to accept in your life. When you set standards, you are not saying, "I am better than everyone else." You are saying, "I know what kind of treatment allows me to feel respected, secure, and at peace." That distinction changes the entire way you approach relationships. A woman who knows her standards does not need to announce them every 5 minutes. She demonstrates them through her choices. If she values communication, she pays attention to whether the person she is dating communicates consistently. If she values honesty, she notices whether his words match his actions. If she values commitment, she does not spend months convincing herself that someone who refuses commitment will eventually change. She watches behavior instead of becoming addicted to potential. Your standards should help you make decisions, not control another person. This is important because many people create standards and then abandon them the moment they become emotionally attached. They say they will never accept disrespect. But when someone they desperately want becomes disrespectful, they make excuses. They say they need consistency, but when the person they like becomes inconsistent, they start overanalyzing instead of stepping back. They say they want commitment, but when someone offers only temporary attention, they convince themselves that maybe patience will eventually turn it into something deeper. That is where self-respect gets lost. You do not have to threaten someone with your standards. You do not have to say, "Treat me this way or I'm leaving," every time something goes wrong. Sometimes the strongest response is simply changing your participation. If someone repeatedly gives you the bare minimum, stop giving them maximum access to you. If someone repeatedly cancels plans without consideration, stop reorganizing your entire schedule around them. If someone only appears when it is convenient for them, stop treating their occasional attention as proof of deep interest. Your time should have meaning because your life has meaning. Being selective does not make you difficult. It means you understand that access to you should come with mutual respect. You do not need to accept every invitation, answer every message immediately, or make yourself endlessly available simply because you are afraid that saying no will cause someone to lose interest. If a healthy boundary makes someone disappear, the boundary did not destroy the connection. It revealed the connection. This is why standards can make you more attractive without being used as a manipulation tactic. A person who has standards is easier to understand because their behavior is consistent. They know what they want. They know what they will not tolerate. They are not constantly changing their expectations based on who they are dating. And you should have standards for yourself too. Do not demand emotional maturity from someone while refusing to communicate maturely yourself. Do not expect consistency while constantly playing games. Do not ask for honesty while hiding what you really want. Do not expect respect while disrespecting your own boundaries whenever you become afraid of losing someone. The strongest standards are lived, not announced. You also need to understand that having standards means being willing to walk away when they are repeatedly ignored. A boundary without action becomes a request. If you tell yourself that you will not tolerate a certain behavior, but continue accepting it indefinitely, you teach yourself that your own standards are negotiable whenever your emotions become intense. Walking away does not always mean ending everything immediately. Sometimes it means slowing down, Sometimes it means observing instead of pursuing. Sometimes it means allowing someone to show you who they are without constantly explaining their behavior for them. Sometimes it means giving yourself enough distance to recognize whether you are attracted to the person or simply attached to the possibility of finally being chosen. Your value is not created by being difficult to access. It is revealed by the way you respect yourself when access is offered. When your time, attention, affection, and energy are given thoughtfully rather than automatically, you stop overinvesting in people who have not demonstrated that they can meet you halfway. You become more intentional about who receives your emotional energy. You stop trying to win someone over through endless availability and start paying attention to whether they are bringing equal effort into your life. Because the relationship you want should not require you to constantly negotiate against yourself just to remain important in someone else's world. You cannot force someone to genuinely choose you, and the moment you understand that, you become much more powerful in relationships. Real commitment has to come from a person's own decision. You can communicate your feelings, show interest, build connection, and make your intentions clear, but you cannot control another person's heart. If you constantly push for an answer, demand reassurance, or pressure someone into choosing you, you may get a temporary response, but you will never know whether that choice came from genuine desire or from pressure. Give him space to choose you instead of forcing his decision. Space does not mean disappearing to manipulate him. It does not mean ignoring his messages to make him nervous. It does not mean creating jealousy or pretending you do not care. Healthy space means allowing the relationship to breathe so both people can see what they actually want without emotional pressure controlling every moment. When you stop trying to control the outcome, you begin paying attention to what is actually happening. Is he making an effort? Is he initiating conversations? Does he make time for you? Does he remember what matters to you? Does he follow through on what he says? Does he show curiosity about your life? Does he move closer when you stop doing all the moving? These questions matter because effort reveals intention. You should not have to carry an entire relationship on your back. You should not always be the person starting the conversation, planning the date, fixing the misunderstanding, initiating affection, and keeping the connection alive. When one person is doing everything, it becomes difficult to determine whether there is mutual desire or simply one person's persistence. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is step back and observe. Let the conversation breathe. Let him initiate. Let him make plans. Let him show curiosity. Let him experience what your absence feels like naturally. Not because you manufactured it as a punishment, but because you are busy living your own life. You do not need to constantly remind someone that you exist. If the connection matters to him, he will have his own reasons to reach for you. This is where many people become uncomfortable because they believe that stepping back means risking the relationship. But if the relationship only survives when you constantly push it forward, you need to know that. You cannot build emotional security by doing all the work yourself. Space also gives you an opportunity to evaluate your own feelings. Sometimes you become so focused on being chosen that you forget to ask whether you actually want the person who is making the choice. You become obsessed with winning his attention, and suddenly his attention feels like a prize. But attention is not necessarily compatibility. Desire is not necessarily commitment. Chemistry is not necessarily emotional safety. You need time to observe the whole picture. Maybe he has many options. Maybe other women are interested in him. Maybe he enjoys attention from different people. That does not mean you need to compete with them. You are not trying to win a contest. You are looking for a person who recognizes what you bring and chooses to build something with you consistently. If he needs to compare you against everyone else before deciding whether you are valuable, let him take responsibility for that decision. You do not need to campaign for the position. You do not need to convince him that you are better than another woman. You do not need to attack his other options. You simply need to remain grounded in who you are and watch whether his behavior aligns with what you want. And if he does not choose you, allow that truth to exist without turning it into a judgment against yourself. Someone choosing another direction does not automatically mean you are not enough. Sometimes people are incompatible. Sometimes timing is wrong. Sometimes values are different. Sometimes someone simply does not have the capacity to offer what you need. Your responsibility is not to make yourself irresistible enough to overcome every possible obstacle. Your responsibility is to recognize mutual effort. The right kind of connection does not require constant pressure. It develops through two people moving toward each other. You make room for him to choose, and he makes room for you to choose too. You are not waiting passively for approval. You are observing whether his actions deserve your continued investment. You are giving him freedom while giving yourself clarity, because when someone chooses you freely, consistently, and without being pushed, you gain something far more valuable than a forced decision. You gain evidence that the relationship is being built by two people who genuinely want to be there. The most powerful transformation happens when you stop asking, "How do I become the woman he will choose?" and start asking, "Am I becoming the woman I would choose for myself?" That question changes the entire foundation of your life. Because if you are constantly trying to become desirable in someone else's eyes, you can lose touch with your own identity. You begin measuring your beauty by his attention, your worth by his commitment, and your confidence by how strongly he pursues you. But your life cannot be built around someone else's decision. Become the woman you would choose for yourself, not the woman who is perfect, flawless, endlessly available, or capable of pleasing everyone. Become the woman who respects herself enough to be honest about what she wants. Become the woman who can look at her own life and say, "I am proud of the person I am becoming," even when nobody is watching. That means keeping promises to yourself. If you say you are going to work toward a goal, keep working. If you say you will stop accepting disrespect, honor that boundary. If you say you want to grow emotionally, do the uncomfortable work of understanding your patterns. If you want a healthier life, make choices that support it. Confidence grows when your actions begin matching the standards you claim to have. You cannot build self-worth through compliments alone. Compliments feel good, but they are external. Self-respect is built through repeated evidence that you can trust yourself. Every time you walk away from something that violates your values, you teach yourself that your boundaries matter. Every time you choose discipline over temporary comfort, you teach yourself that your future matters. Every time you speak honestly instead of pretending to be someone else, you teach yourself that your authenticity matters. And this is where your relationships begin to change. When you genuinely respect yourself, you stop accepting attention as a substitute for effort. You stop confusing chemistry with compatibility. You stop becoming emotionally attached simply because someone gives you occasional affection. You start looking at the complete picture. Is he consistent? Is he respectful? Does he communicate? Does he make space for you? Does he support your growth? Does being around him bring peace? Or are you constantly trying to decode his behavior? You become less interested in being chosen by everyone and more interested in being aligned with the right person. That is a major difference. You do not need every man to recognize your value. You only need to stop allowing people who do not recognize it to determine how you see yourself. If someone walks away, you do not have to chase them down and convince them to return. If someone becomes inconsistent, you do not have to work twice as hard to restore their interest. If someone cannot offer what you need, you do not have to reduce your needs just to keep them. Your standards become stronger because your identity becomes stronger. And becoming the woman you would choose for yourself also means developing a life that you genuinely enjoy. Read, learn, build, travel when you can, create something. Strengthen your friendships, take care of your body, develop your mind, pursue meaningful goals, spend time alone without treating solitude like rejection. Learn to enjoy your own company so that being in a relationship becomes an addition to your happiness rather than the source of it. The more complete your own life becomes, the less desperate you become for someone else to complete it. You can still want love. You can still desire partnership. You can still hope that a particular man chooses you. But you no longer make his decision the final verdict on your life. You remain grounded whether he stays or leaves. You remain committed to yourself, whether he gives you attention or distance. You continue growing whether someone notices your growth or not. And that is the kind of woman who becomes difficult to replace. Not because she manipulates someone into fearing her absence, but because she has built a character, a life, and a sense of self that she refuses to abandon for temporary attention. Because before asking anyone else to choose you, you have already made the most important choice yourself. You have chosen to respect, protect, and become the woman you know you are capable of becoming.